Hey guys, so there have been some comments about money lately, and so I'm going to take a stab at talking about money again. And this is a really complex topic, and it's also, I think, a unique topic in this space because of not only because of what it means to people and how it means wildly different things to people, and because it's a thing that essentially represents something else. It represents survival. It represents the ability to experience what you want. It represents security. What's also, I think, weird about it in a couple ways is one, it's like it's not like there's a financial goal like there is for getting a relationship. You find a partner and you're like, okay, this is the one, I'm happy, right? With money, it's not like, oh, I have to get one money and then I'm done. It's like you can get more and more and more of it. Like you could never be satisfied if you choose. And so it's kind of a weird thing. And on top of that, you don't where if you find people that are happy and satisfied in a relationship, it's not like people with like lots and lots of issues, you don't generally find them like in a happy relationship, where that's like sort of a general rule. You find all different kinds of people with a lot of money. So money is its own weird thing, I think. And it's a very personal thing. Everything is, but this is like really personal. Me telling you how I feel about money, you might be able to mimic that and get it to happen for you. I don't really know, to be honest with you, because of everything I just said. I don't know if you really need to tailor this to your own values and personality and all of that. So the best I could do is tell you how and why, in terms of manifestation, I was able to do this. And I don't know, this is something I think people really have to think about for themselves. They really have to think about what all of their attitudes and feelings are about it. If you don't have, I want to say this also, especially for everything I've been talking about recently and talking about examining beliefs and talking about things that you should do and things like that. If you're already successful in some area, if it's already working, you should ride that until the wheels fall off, if you ask me. And then wait till you hit a wall, and that's when you know something's there that you have to do. Just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff can be counterproductive. It can be thinking about something that does not need to be thought about because it's already part of a system that's working. So, yeah, that applies to this and other things. Like if you're not able to reach a money goal, or if you're stuck at just like a destitute level, then that's probably the time to say, well, what's causing this? If you're steadily working towards a goal and like you're getting there already, and you're not miserable, or there's not some big problem, don't create a problem, as they say. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So I want to make sure I say that. But so also, if you're in that place where you were raised poor and everybody around you was poor, and you sort of absorb that, or you kind of feel like that's a part of your identity, and you've had ongoing problems and it's been really hard to have any success, that's not me. That's not where I come from. I can't say here's how I overcame that for you. It's like for me, like a problem that I can't imagine not having is the feelings that I have about myself and like my weight and stuff having to do with food. That for me is like something that has almost always been there. And to imagine sort of just being, like for me, somebody emailed me a few weeks ago, and they were describing how they feel as a person that has never had any kind of issues with food or weight. And I think that's valuable and interesting because you can think about it. So I can tell you how I feel as somebody who has never had anything more than surface issues with money. And so in the same way that this person describing how they feel, and by the way, this person said some interesting things, that basically their whole life they had been somebody who had a fast metabolism, like that's what they would tell people, and that they just never had a problem with it and never really thought about it. But then eventually when they became more self-aware, they realized that actually they didn't overeat. Actually, they weren't attracted to food that makes you fat. They weren't attracted to, eating as a response to emotions or as a form of punishment or any of that stuff. They were basically just kind of like clear-minded about this, even though, they had it originally and for a long time just been like, yeah, I can eat whatever I want, and kind of thought that that was true. And so, that just as sort of an example of how you need to be careful about who you listen to, because people who aren't self-aware and who don't really understand how they're working will tell you that they do things that they don't do because they don't know what they do or why they're doing what they're doing. So you have to be careful about who you're listening to, or else you might listen to somebody say, yeah, I just eat whatever the hell I want and I'm just thin because I have a thin mentality. And then you go and just go, I have a thin mentality, and you eat whatever you want, which as a screwed up person, you'll like eat a whole bunch of garbage and get fatter. Somebody on Reddit actually had this happen and posted about it. You have to be careful who you listen to in this area, because people that don't understand how they work are not going to be able to tell you how to do something that involves understanding yourself and knowing how you work. So I'm just going to tell you about me with money. And it's very similar to the person that doesn't have an eating problem. Like a person that is naturally thin and doesn't have an eating problem could still gain weight at some point if they go through a period of having a lifestyle that isn't conducive to being thin. Like that can happen to people that don't have weight problems. That's why when I talk about how I overcame that, it's not for everybody. It's just for people that have a similar mindset to me, are going to benefit from the mentalities that got me out of that place where I was really heavy. So this, I guess, can serve as an example for how your mentality can be free. First of all, I don't have any negative thoughts about money. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting it. I don't think there's anything you can say about money other than deliberately scamming people to get money, deliberately taking advantage of people to get money. If you're somebody who looks at capitalism and just sees an exploitation of the worker and all of that stuff, I don't know. I don't feel that way. I don't spend any time thinking about that. I just look at people as being free to do what they want. And if I want to pay you for a job and you want to take that job for that amount of money, then that's that. And that's just how I look at it, right or wrong. I'm just letting you know, like, this is the mentality that I have towards money. It's fine to be super rich. It's fine to pretty much have whatever attitude you want about it. If you want to be a scrimper and a saver, I don't have a judgment on that. If you want to, live frivolously, and you can do that, that's fine with me. And of course, whatever frivolous means to me is what it means to me. That's just basically where I'm coming from on it. I think people should do what they want with it. It's when they start having problems and they can't figure out why, or they start instructing other people to do things that may not work for that person. That's when I start to get a little, have an opinion about it. But, otherwise I don't have an opinion about it. I just don't see anything wrong with it. I don't see it as being all that meaningful, other than maybe to indicate that you have a certain mastery over it, or to indicate that you have achievements that generally come with it. that's where I'm coming from on it. I don't spend much time worrying about not having it, but I don't never think about it either. You know, when stuff happens like inflation, I've certainly looked at my finances and said, well, I have 30% less money now, less buying power now than I did before this inflation happened. And that's doesn't feel good, you know, and I certainly spend some time, or have spent some time, thinking about where the trajectory of the United States is leading me in terms of money, and I've felt some pressure to try to make more of it. In fact, I'm guessing that was some part of the impetus for deciding to make more money earlier this year, or late last year. I decided I really needed to give like another push to making more money. But, you know, I don't really worry about it very much. And where I'm at mentally with it, in terms of everyday spending and stuff like that, is that anything that is within reason to me, which means it doesn't cost hundreds of dollars, I don't frivolously spend hundreds of dollars. I'll pause and think about it, depending on what it is and whether or not I really want it. If I want something and it costs a few $100s, and I haven't been doing that all the time, I'll buy it. It's that simple. And for things like everyday things like groceries or clothing, I don't buy expensive clothing. It just seems like a waste of money to me. I would buy something expensive like a dress or an outfit. I would spend a lot, like when I buy my wedding dress, I don't have a price limit on that at all. If I find something that I really want and it's $20,000, I'm gonna buy it. But that's like a one-time thing. You know, I wouldn't say that about pretty much any other dress, any other article of clothing. I don't know. To me, in my value code, that's a waste of money. You might feel differently, and I might be able to change that and still have the same amount of money I have. I don't know. That's why I'm saying this is really personal to each person and how you want to live and all that. I don't feel any lack there by having that mentality. If it's something like, you know, lately I've been really, one of my biggest wastes of money has been on stuff from Panera. I even have a video on here about how I manifested them coming up with of course, I don't know that I manifested this directly, but whatever. What manifested in my reality was a way for me to not have to pay for the $3.50 Diet Pepsi that I was getting 3 times a day. That was just such a waste to me. But, you know, what is that? $300 a month, plus I was getting them for Matt too, like almost every time I went. So I was spending like $500 a month on that. I was just like, $500 is basically meaningless to me. So that's why I was doing it, but it was still bothering me because I was just like, this is just a misuse of money. This is just like giving money the middle finger. This $500 means something to another person. This $500 could, you know, pay somebody's bills. And I just hate that this is being spent. And so eventually they, you know, came out with a deal where you pay $11 a month and you get fountain drinks all day long for free. So, that was one of my biggest expenses. But since then, now I'm really going there like all the time. And so I've been buying their expensive food too. And they have a chicken sandwich that costs like $13. And it's ridiculous. And I don't even eat the bun that it comes on. I put it on a low carb tortilla. So it's a total waste of money. But I'm still, you know, that's like where I hit a wall. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm spending $15 on a chicken breast because I tip them $2 too. I'm like, I'm spending $15 on a chicken breast every day. This is a ridiculous waste, but I still do it because I know I can afford it, and it's providing me with a way not to eat something worse. It's really good. It's a really good chicken sandwich. So like that's where I hit a wall, is with really like frivolous, just meaningless spending. I feel like that is giving the finger to money. So I try not to do that. And that's just my own personal code. That's my own personal feelings about it. I have my own personal ideas about money. You know, I think that if you have a lot of money and you see somebody who needs it, or you see somebody who you think should have some of it, you should act on that. You know, you should be a conduit. You should have money. You should be a custodian of money, not an owner of money. That's how I've always looked at it. Always. I've always been like that. You know, even when I didn't have a lot of money, I would do that if I could. So that's one of my values about money is, and I also believe, you know, that I believe that that is part of why I am bestowed with so much of it. And, you know, that's probably just a completely made up construct of my mind. I mean, there is this universal law of giving is receiving, and that's not something that, you know, I'm unaware of. I think about that a lot, and I just, you know, often if there's an impulse to give money and I think, no, but I need that, or no, but I'm scared to do that, I just immediately tell myself giving is receiving. And by giving this money and continuing to be this conduit through which money flows, I will just get more and more of it. So that's kind of a nice thing, I think, that's going on in this whole thing for me. So, you know, I don't think at all, and I'm sure many of you can relate to this, I don't think at all about buying things like that I need, or that, you know, like I just drove to the gas station and bought a water and a Red Bull. I'm sure there are more efficient ways, more, you know, of buying. Yeah, I'm sure I could just buy a 24 pack of water or something, but I don't worry about stuff like that. I just do. I don't even think about it. And that's actually, I think, kind of an important part of this mindset for me, and where I'm at with it is I am now at the point where I can make use of almost everything that I could possibly need in order to do whatever I want. That's the feeling for me, is the freedom to use the things of the world for whatever I want to use them for. Whether it's getting a water or Red Bull to wake myself up so I can go do my workout, or I buy every book that I want. Pretty much anytime somebody recommends a book, I buy it. I have a lot of books, a lot that I haven't read. And that, you know, that's a kind of another, so I'm saying this is so complex, I could talk about it all day. When I was building my business, and I you know, I don't like to do things with no goal at all. I like having a goal. I like feeling like I have something I'm working towards. The first achievement I wanted to hit was essentially what they refer to as barista FIRE, which FIRE is financial independence, retire early. So I wanted to hit barista FIRE, which is basically where you have enough money saved that you could get a job at Starbucks, or I always would say a job at the gas station. That was my thing before barista FIRE was a thing that was being talked about. My thing was, I want to be able to work at a gas station. I want to be able to get the lowest level job available with the lowest level of responsibility. And just with that supplementing my income, I want to be able to be retired, essentially. And so that was sort of the first goal for me, which I hit that in, I think, 2017. I felt like I was at a place where that could happen. You know, being at that level is so freeing, at least for me, knowing that my survival was essentially done. Like, I didn't have to work to survive anymore. That was a major change. It's like a whole area of thought just disappeared for me. Because it was just a done deal. I mean, I had enough money that it could never run out. Just withdrawing a certain amount that I would need to supplement my McDonald's career in order to pay my bills and live, you know, comfortably enough. So, buying all the books that I want is sort of a part of the next level of that, which is that, you know, I want to be able to, and I'm already at a point for myself where this could happen, which is not, you know, it's, now I want more, but my next level goal would basically be just to support myself entirely off of being able to withdraw savings, investments, and I have so many books that I could literally just read and be entertained and do nothing else for probably years. I would need like no entertainment budget, need no money. I'm basically like building my books are like my entertainment investment for the future. There are so many, and I just don't have time to read almost any of them. So I have all that. And that's another part of, my mindset. This is just kind of like a boring look into how I look at money. I don't know if you can draw any conclusions here for yourself. I would imagine that being able to imagine what it feels like to not have to have any thought about buying a certain level of item. I would imagine that that's a great place to start putting yourself, if you're trying to go the Neville Goddard route of imagining, or you're trying to just feel something different than what you've always felt about money. A lot of people are like, oh, you just imagine like you could buy a yacht. Dude, I can't imagine what that would feel like, honestly. I honestly can't. I can't connect to what that level of wealth would feel like for me. To just say, yeah, I'm going to buy this thing that costs $1 million. That's not something I can personally connect to. What I can connect to is, and I think the reason that I can't connect to that is because I have no desire to buy a yacht. And so I don't have the feeling of what it feels like to not be able to buy the yacht that I want. But I do know what it feels like to not just be able to go, or to not feel comfortable just being able to like go and write a check for a $50,000 car, for example. I could buy a $50,000 car. I could buy a $100,000 car. I don't want that. Like, that's another thing. Like, a $100,000 car is like it's not even anything I'm thinking about. A $50,000 car, though, I could buy that, but I feel like it would be irresponsible. Like, that's how I honestly feel. And when Matt was going to buy his car last summer, and he went and got a loan and shopped around and he had a budget and all that, I became very aware of where I was at with everything. I would absolutely go buy a $2,000 TV without thinking about it. And honestly, I didn't put too much, I didn't worry or stress too much about buying my house with cash. Because it was like a good value for the house. It wasn't frivolous at all in my mind. It was just a great deal, and I had the money. I was like, I'm definitely buying that. It was just whatever. I went and wrote a check for it, essentially. But I'm not at the point where I can look at something like a car or a house that is at a certain level and just say, I'm just going to go buy that. I'm not even going to worry about it. With Matt's car, I was just like, oh, it'd be so great if I was in a position where I felt like I don't even have to think about dropping $35,000 on this car. Like, that would just be so great, I mean, I wouldn't have done that because it's his car and his deal, but it made me think, it made me think I'm just not there. That's just not where I'm at. I'm not like, I could just drop 30 grand on a car. And because to me, that would be kind of frivolous. So, I'd have to be currently, with my current mindset, I'd have to be at a certain level of wealth before $30,000 became the way $3,000 is right now. So I'd probably have to have 10 times as much money, would be my guess. And that's just my value system. And that's why I think you have to know yourself, because, if I get in the mindset of $30,000 means next to nothing to me, and I'm kind of moving in that direction, then the outer wealth will be there, and that's how it works for me within my value system. And, what it means for you, I don't know. If you're in a broke state, If you have that mentality, you're gonna, I think, have a lot more success working with yourself and your current value system. If your goal is to get money, which honestly I think it should be, I think it probably, for people that are in a broke mentality, it probably makes more sense to try to actually get money than it does to try to unravel all of these things that have to go with it, that created the situation. I think it makes sense to try to get sort of out of that survival mode, because when you're in survival, when you're in that low place, it's very hard to do anything. It's very hard to control your mind. Even though I don't have money problems, I have certainly created issues where, like, I was close to having no money. I went bankrupt in my 20s, and I had to change certain personality traits that I had so as not to just have that perpetuate, so I could eventually get successful. So I know what it's like when you don't know where your next dollar is coming from. I actually don't know what that's like. I have actually never, I had one like 2-hour period where I didn't know where my next dollar was coming from, and I literally went out and got a job the same day. So I have, for like 3 hours in my life, not known where my next dollar was coming from, and I had people that I could very humiliatingly ask to help me out if I needed. So that's as close as I've come. So I can imagine if you are just below that, you're in survival mode. Getting some money together so that you can take a breath, I would say, is the most important goal. More important than dealing with your feelings about it. Get yourself to a stable place. And then think about this. At least get yourself to the place where you know where your survival for the next 30 days has been taken care of. You have enough money to pay your rent and bills and buy yourself food and pay your phone bill or whatever else you have to do. You can get that without changing any of this shit. You can get that from the worst possible place. You're going to have to, or you're going to be homeless. So I would get to that place, and, to equate this back, this is getting really long. This is another rambling thing. It drives me crazy. I hope there's something in here for somebody. And I don't get to the fucking point till the end. This drives me crazy about myself. This is, I equated this to, somebody having sort of innate money issues and money being their central theme. I equated that to me with, like, my weight being my central theme and all that stuff. I'm not sure how I could get to the point that I'm at now, where those issues, the mental issues about it, have been worked out, and the remaining things are coming to light, and everything is kind of being swept clean. I don't know how I would have gotten to that point without getting the 3D manifestation of my body being the way I wanted it first. So I think that if you're coming from a bad place with money, you don't need to concern yourself so much with how does a completely clear mind about money feel. That doesn't need to be your focus. I'm not saying you shouldn't think about it or imagine it, but being honest with yourself about where you are and where your current limits are, and working with those to get yourself out of the lowest place with it. There is a lot of value in that. It's like when I went from 190 to 115, I'm like, wow, this did 50% of what I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to do 100. Now I see what it actually did for me. Now I can see what was actually being caused by the 3D outer appearance not being what I wanted it to be. Here are the benefits. I can go shopping now and buy clothing and attend any event. I'm no longer turning down social events left and right and stunting my connections with other people because I won't go somewhere because I, don't have the right clothing. Like, that was a huge deal. That changed my life. It changed my life. And just the amount of time that I was able to spend in the state of mind of not being aware of myself was wonderful. It allowed all sorts of other changes to happen for me mentally. So there were real benefits to that. And I was healthier. I was in ideal physical shape and my body felt great. if you are able to work within your limits, within the mindset that you have right now, to manifest money in a way that can come to somebody with that mindset, you can get yourself to a point where then you're like, okay, I'm stable. I'm not poor. I am factually not poor. I am factually able to pay my bills. Factually, I can go buy a water from the gas station without worrying that my debit card's going to get declined. But I still feel scared. I still feel like it's going to all be taken away. I still feel whatever. I still don't feel worthy of this. I still feel like I'm a poor person. Everybody can see that. I still feel like when every time I go to buy something, I'm still afraid my credit card's going to get declined. I still have that to this day. Well, that's actually gone now, but it's very recent. Just from my 20s where I was just like broke, like having my credit card declined. Oh my God. That is what I would do if I were you. Because it's just so helpful to know where you are, really, to to separate the actual things that you want that will actually do something for you from all this other garbage. It can be really hard to separate that out. I've been talking lately about trying to pick apart your desire and separate it out into what it's made up of. It can be really hard to do that from a certain place. And you might just think getting the money will solve it all. If I had money, I wouldn't feel poor. If I had money, I wouldn't feel this way about myself. And you might find that a lot of that is not true when you get it. So, this is like a multifaceted issue for people. And there are a lot of moving parts in there. The best I can do is just tell you, I tell you what I've told you in this video about myself, which is that there is sort of an absence of thought about money in a lot of my day-to-day life. I just get what I need and I know that I have the money to pay for it because it's a tiny fraction of my overall wealth. I just don't think about it at all. But my dad, for example, he retired when he was 49. He was very careful with money. I was never spoiled growing up. I was not exposed to any kind of great wealth or anything like that. But to the day he died, he was always trying to save money on everything. I don't think he ever in his life really got to a point where he would just go to the grocery store and load his cart and check out without a thought. I literally, when I go grocery shopping, I couldn't even tell you what I've spent on the last 100 times I've gone to the grocery store. I'm oblivious to it. They probably could have, a $10 item could have been charged as $100 by accident, and I wouldn't have noticed. I just don't even think about it. But my dad, I doubt he ever in his life that he went to the grocery store and had no thoughts about what he was buying and just bought what he wanted and bought a name brand if he wanted it instead of an off brand. And yet he still managed to accumulate wealth. He managed to do all kinds of things with money. He never had any money problems my entire life, ever. There was never my dad's broke. That never happened. So the different mindsets that can accumulate wealth, they're just all over the place. This is a really, really personal thing to you. So there's the getting of money and accumulating of money, and then there's the mindset that goes with it and how you enjoy it and experience it. And another example would be my ex, my very good friend that I own my business with. We have wildly different ideas about money. He was able to literally manifest. He, for 2 weeks, while in the car, repeated the affirmation to himself, I'm a successful businessman. Everything I touch turns to gold. It was something along those lines. And he is a music producer. And pretty much directly after that 2-week period, he managed to bring into existence a music brand that has, I think to date, gotten like $500,000 in streaming. If you're anywhere near the music industry, you will understand what just a total and ridiculous anomaly that is. That really hasn't changed his mindset about money. Our business's success has not changed his mindset about money. Our business's success being largely due to me. I'm sort of the creative behind it, and I'm kind of the boss of the whole thing, even though we're equal partners. He's more of a supportive role to me in our business that generates a lot of money. But his music thing was all him. His mindset has not changed. He's an immigrant from an Eastern European country. He was very broke. His parents worked super hard their whole lives. His parents retired with a few $100,000 in savings and their house paid off. I mean, that's where he comes from. And, he still feels the same. It'll never be enough. Like money is the thing that eludes, enough money, the feeling of security. And that's why it's so great, because, when we first met, we were both broke. I was in my 20s. He was 33. We were both at the same point. I had just gone bankrupt. We were like really trying to figure it out. And, he just believed so hardcore that if we just had enough money, he would be happy. Like he would be free. I'll link to, he and I made a video about this in June of 2020 where he talks about this. I'll link to that below. It turns out that having money did not solve the problem for him. He still feels like it's never enough. He is still afraid that it's all going to be taken away, due to his upbringing and these fears that are in there. It doesn't prevent you from getting it. There's a lot going into it, just like a lot of the things that are issues in your life that appear to be about, your body or your relationship or your finances. So anyway, that is the best that I can do. That is a long ass video. I have been making some epic length videos lately. I just these things are the underlying concepts are so simple, but it's when you plug them into your own experience of this weird experience of being a human with this weird complex emotional system, and it's when you plug it in that it's like a totally different experience for every person. Like you can relate to me here, I can relate to you there, but it's like a fingerprint. So honestly, my best advice, I'll leave this, I'll leave it here. My best advice to anybody who is in dire financial straits and, who's trying to figure it out. I will also link to another video that I made recently. I really think that the best thing you can do for yourself is start to build up your belief that you can get out of it. Believe that you can get from point A to point B, manifestation or not. Just start pounding it into yourself. I mean, all day long, every day. I can fix this situation. I can get out of this. I can do it. I can do it. And you can. You absolutely, this is just the truth. You're just not seeing the truth. You can get out of this. You can get enough money to get to that point that I was describing, where you're stable enough to actually look at all this stuff and change it. You can get out of survival mode. I can do it. Dude, you can do it. You can do it. People of all different types achieve this. You can do it. So that would be where I would start with it for money, if you're in that place. And if you're already outside of that place, I hope you found some value in this video and that you can do something with it. Just don't be afraid to get to know yourself, and don't judge yourself for the limits that you find there. Don't judge yourself for your programming. It's just programming. It's not anything more than that. It's just things that you've thought again and again and again until they started to feel like a reality and a truth, and they started to present themselves in your 3D reality and support that. There's no judgment about it. Just because you've created something shitty, I mean, whatever, who cares? Who cares? It's just a playground. Just treat it like a playground when you can. Anyway, that's it. Have a great day.